Now, building on the last video on solving quadratic equations part 1, it'd be a nice idea now if you were to try some examples for yourself. So we're looking at exercise 22.1 in your textbook. That's on page 430. And what I'd like you to do to start with is have a go at question 1, which is x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. So have a go at that now quietly on your own, and stop the video and then come back when you think you've got your answer. So let's put down our two brackets again. As we know, we're going to end up with two brackets, and we'll begin by looking at the x squared, and there's a 1 in front of it, so we're going to put x here and x here. Now we'll look at this number here, plus 2. 2 is equal to 1 times 2. So it's going to be a 1 here and a 2 there, or a 2 there and a 1 there. So how do we get 3 from the 1 and the 2? Well, 3 is simply equal to a plus 1 and a plus 2 added together. So it looks like in here we're going to put the 1 and the 2, and it doesn't matter which way around we do it. So let's put the 1 in here, plus 1, and a plus 2, and of course we make the whole thing equal to 0. So this is going to give us a solution that x plus 1 equals 0 if this whole factor here sums to 0. Therefore x is going to be equal to minus 1, that is taking 1 away from both sides. And for this one here, if x plus 2 is equal to 0, we're going to get x plus 2 equals 0, therefore x is minus 2, taking 2 away from both sides. So there's our two solutions. Easy peasy, I think. Looking again at exercise 22.1, why don't you have a go now at question number 2, x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. It's only slightly more complicated than question 1, so it shouldn't take you too long to get the answer. Pause the video again and come back when you think you've got your solution. Well, here's our solution coming up then, and see if you've got the same answer. We're going to need two brackets again, because we've got an x squared with a 1 in front of it. It's going to be x here and x in the second bracket. I now look at the plus 5, and the plus 5 is equal to, or can be made equal to 1 times 5. It can also be 5 times 1. How do I get plus 6? Well, plus 6 is going to be a combination of a plus 1 and a plus 5. So it looks like I'm going to put a 1 in there and a 5 in there, plus 1 plus 5, and make the whole lot equal to 0. If that's the case, then either this one's equal to 0, this bracket sums to 0, in which case x plus 1 equals 0, and x will equal minus 1, taking 1 away from both sides, or x plus 5 equals 0, take away 5 from both sides, x is minus 5. There's our two solutions, x is minus 1 and x is minus 5. So I hope you got both of those correct, both solutions, and you're happy with the result. So let's go back and try something a little bit more complicated. Now the next one we'd like to have a go at is question number 13. 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. So if you just pause the video again and have a go at solving that, two solutions for that, and then resume the video when you've got your solutions to check. Well, here's our equation again, and we know we're going to end up with two brackets, so let's just put them down now. And this time I'll just make it straight equal to 0, whatever the solution is. We'll put an x in here and an x in here, but we've got to deal with this 3 first. Well, 3 can be equal to 3 times 1, or 3 can be 1 times 3. It really doesn't matter this time round, but normally we'll put the big number in first and leave the x on its own in the second bracket. Having done that, we now look at this number here, the plus 2. And to get the plus 2, well, 2 is just simply 2 times 1, or 2 could be 1 times 2. So in here I could be putting a 1, and in here a 2, or vice versa. I could put a 2 in there and then a 1 in there. So let's look at both cases to see how many x's we can produce. We want to produce that 7. So I'll put the 1 in here and the 2 in here. We'll see how many x's we can generate with those in those positions. So we'll take the 3x and multiply it by the 2, and we'll give it 6x. So this can possibly generate a 6x, and then the 1 times the x will give us another x. Now in combination, these could give us 7x. In other words, equal to 6x plus x. If we take the other two numbers, 2 and 1, and put the 2 in here and the 1 in here, what could we generate? Well, we could have a 3x times 1 would give us 3x, and the 2 times x would give me 2x. So the best I could possibly achieve here is 5x, in other words equal to 3x plus 2x. So I think we can agree that this is the solution, not this one here. So our solution is going to be 3x plus 1 and x plus 2 in the brackets to give us the overall result of 0. So we take this down here and we're going to get 3x plus 1 could equal 0 to get the overall 0, in which case x is going to be minus 1 over 3. I've taken away 1 from both sides and then divided both sides by 3. Or x plus 2 equals 0, and therefore x is equal to minus 2. So our two results are x is minus 1/3 or x is minus 2. Well, I hope you managed to get the same result. If you have, well done. Let's turn our attention to question 28. 8x squared minus 11x plus 3 equals 0. Why don't you now pause the video, have a go at the solution yourself, and then rerun the video and see if we get the same answer. Well, let's look at a solution then. We're going to put down our two brackets again. We'll put in our x and our x because we're going to get x squared. And the first thing we're going to do is tackle the easy bit, which is this number here, 3, which tells us that if we've got 3, it must be 1 times 3. So we've got to have a 1 in there and a 3 there to generate that 3. Indicating also, by the way, that this could either be a negative and a negative to give us a positive, or it could be a positive and a positive to give us a positive. But we're not too sure just yet which it is. So now let's tackle the number in front of the x squared, the 8. Now 8 can be made up of 1 times 8. It could be made up of 8 times 1, or 2 times 4, or indeed 4 times 2. So in here we could have a 1, an 8, a 2, or a 4. And if we do that, the reciprocal number in here would be 8, 1, 4, and 2. There are only combinations we can have. So let's look at these combinations 1, 8, 8, 1, etc. to see how many x's we would generate by using them in turn. So imagine we got a 1x in here, and we're going to multiply that by the 3, and that will give us a 3x. So we'll generate a 3x to start with. And now imagine we had an 8 in here. We'd have an 8 times a 1, we'd end up with 8x. So this could allow us to generate an 11x. We could have a minus 11x equal to minus 3x and another minus 8x. So that would work. Let's try the next combination just to double check. Instead of having a 1 and an 8, we're going to have an 8 and a 1. So let's have an 8 in there, and we'll have the 1 in front of the x. So we're going to get 8 times 3, which will give me 24x, and a 1 times the x there, which will give me just another x. Now there's no way that I can generate an 11 with that. Can't generate 11x, whatever I do. Let's try the next one. So we could have a 2 in there and a 4 in there. That 2 multiplied by the 3 will give me 6x. And the 1 times the 4 will give me 4x. Now again, a 6 and a 4, whatever combination I tried to use with those, I cannot generate an 11. So that one doesn't work either. And now let's take the last example. We'll put a 4 in here and a 2 in here. 4 times 3 will give me 12x. And then 1 times 2 will give me 2x. Again, there's no combination that I can work with 12 and 2 to give me an 11x. So none of these work, and it looks like our solution is minus 3 and minus 8. I'm going to put an invisible 1 in there, and an 8 in there, and then I need a negative 1 and a negative 3 to generate the minus 3 and the minus 8. And of course, a minus 1 multiplied by minus 1 will give me the plus 3 that I do need up there. So now I can work my solutions. I'll bring this one down here and we get x minus 1 equals 0. In other words, this could possibly equal 0 to get the whole lot to be 0. In this case then x is going to be equal to 1. Add 1 to both sides. Or I could have 8x minus 3 equals 0. In other words, 8x equals 3, or x equals 3 over 8. I've added 3 to both sides first, and then I've divided both sides by 8. So there's my two solutions, x equals 1 or x equals 3 over 8. I hope you managed to achieve the same results yourself. Now let's have a look at question 34. And this is in a slightly different format to begin with. X squared plus 10x equals 3x plus 44. And a little hint here, we're going to have to get this into the normal form we've been using up till now, where all the numbers are on the left hand side and the 0 is on the right hand side of the equation. So have a go at tackling this and then come back and have a look at the answer to see how you've done. So pause the video now and have a go for yourself. So the first thing we have to do here is to rearrange the terms so that we have 0 on the right hand side. So to do that I need to get rid of the 3x by taking away 3x, and the 44 by getting rid of that with a take away 44. So we'll now end up with the following: x squared plus 10x minus 3x minus 44 equals 0. And that'll boil down to the following. Let's have two brackets like we've had before. X in the first and x in the second to get the x squared. Now we need to consider the minus 44. How do we get 44? Well, 44 is either 1 times 44 or... Now which of these I use will depend on the number here in front of the x, the 7. I need to find a combination of one of these pairs that will give me 7. Now I think you can see straight away that if I take this pair here, 4 and 11, I can have 11 take away 4 will give me 7. So it looks like this is the combination I need to use. I also need the 7 to be a plus 7. So I'm going to put 11 in here, and that's going to be plus, and negative 4 in here, and overall that will give me minus 44 if I multiply the 11 by the 4. So it looks like this is my solution, and I'm going to take this down now to find the actual values for x. X equals minus 11 or x equals 4. These appear to be my two solutions. So the main difference with this particular problem is I first of all had to rearrange the equation I was given to get it in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. I had to get that format first before I could really solve it. I hope you got the same answer. If you did, well done. If not, go back over it again, try it for yourself, make sure you really understand it.